We would like to call this meeting to order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Kingman City Council held on Tuesday, March 31st, 2023. March 21st, 2023. Oh, did I? I apologize. Okay. One more time, March 21st. There we go. Okay. Turn some time over to our city clerk for roll call.
Mayor Watkins.
Here.
Vice Mayor Samily. Here. Councilmember Pat.
Present.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley is excused this evening. Councilmember Walker is excused this evening. Councilmember Ward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We would like to have an invocation and pledge of allegiance. And as we stand, if we could first, as many of you know, a longtime Kingman pioneer and resident, Scott Dunn, passed away last week. And if we could have a moment of silence for him, and then we will have our invocation given by Pastor Bob Pete of Kingdom of God Baptist Church. And then Vice Mayor Samily, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after that?
Dear God, dear God, Heavenly Father, we invite you to preside over this meeting this evening. Even if some of us have different opinions, we ask that you will give us a unity of spirit to help each other listen politely as others share their points of view, to help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome that will glorify you. We ask, Heavenly Father, that we will work as a unit rather than individuals. And we ask that you may have a spirit of camaraderie in this room this evening as we work together on a shared mission. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our great nation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Pete. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A.3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto. Item number 1, appointments. 1A, Economic Development Advisory Commission appointment. The Economic Development Advisory Commission currently has 2 vacancies due to the resignation of Commissioner Stockbridge, term ending in 12/31/24, and Commissioner Valentine, term ending in 12/31/26. One application from Brian Zimmerman has been received and provided for review to the council liaison, city manager, and staff. Residency and voter registration status has been verified. Staff is recommending appointment of Brian Zimmerman to complete the 4-year term vacated by Commissioner Valentine, ending on December 31st, 2026. Mr. Valentine is here today? Oh,
Zimmerman.
Zimmerman, I'm sorry, Mr. Zimmerman. Mr. Valentine, yes. Yes, would you like, is there anything you'd like to say to council, Mr. Zimmerman? Okay, council?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Savage.
I had
Councilor
the
Savage.
pleasure of meeting with Mr. Zimmerman. We had about a good half-hour, 45-minute conversation. He's very well educated. He believes in growth and has a vision for growth, and I think he will be an excellent addition to the Economic Development Advisory Commission. Thank you.
Would you like to make that as a motion then?
I will motion that.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Welcome, Mr. Zimmerman. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Item number 2, call to the public. Comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The council may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The council may direct the city manager to study the matter or request that this matter be placed on a future agenda. We do have one person has filled out a request to speak to the council. Mr. Steve Smith. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Steve Smith. I'm a resident of Kingman. I am a bicyclist. I've been cycling for more years than I care to admit. I'm the kind of bicyclist that you'd see out there in Lycra, and I apologize for that. But I'm here to talk about the seriousness of the scooters, electric bikes, and the rentals on our
Mr.
on our
Smith,
roads.
could you pull that mic?
I can. I apologize. I think it's a great idea to encourage as much cycling and scootering around town as possible. Jamie Scott Seeley has done a fabulous job putting in some of the bike paths and lanes along some of the major routes. We don't have a lot of cyclists because of the weather, but those that we do, and I got to apologize for those guys, are not particularly well versed in the law. Unfortunately, neither are our drivers. I don't ride road in Kingman any longer because I'm afraid. We have great bicycle trails, mountain bike trails here in town. Thank you again, and those are fabulous for riding. My suggestion would be to try, along with the scooters and the cycling that's available to the public out there, to educate with signage, messages in the minor, any way possible, to get some of these people, maybe even the schools, because the kids are crazy, get some of the schools to educate cyclists and scooter people about how to deal with the roads. Having them on the sidewalks is dangerous. We have guys on electric bikes that are cruising along at high speeds, going the opposite direction of traffic, and where most people are pulling out of a driveway and looking to the left to be sure there's no traffic coming along. There's a guy coming on at 25 miles an hour on his e-bike. You pull out, that could be a hazard. I'm sorry, I keep thinking. Secondly, let me just ask for clarification. Can I speak to something that's on the consent agenda right now, or no?
It is public comment. You can comment about whatever you'd like
Okay,
to right
very
now, but you only
briefly.
have 3 minutes, so you know. Okay.
I'll get this down. I've got 48 seconds. I'm also a member of the Flashman, Arizona Corporation, and I would urge you to approve the wine and beer for Garibaldi's. They're moving into the building that Werner has worked so hard to try to renovate downtown, and we would appreciate consent on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Clerk Meredith, do we have anything more as far as public comment?
Mayor, I did not receive any written comments before the meeting, and nobody online has signed up to address the council at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. Item number 3, consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Councilors, have we all had a chance to take a look at these items on the consent agenda? Is there anything that needs to be removed for discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to remove item C.
Item C? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Can we have a motion then to approve items A, B, and D on the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Vice Mayor Samley, item C.
Thank you, Mayor. The only reason that I pulled item C is I just wanted to state a conflict of interest. My employer, Pioneer Title Agency, is listed and involved in this item, so I'm going to recuse myself from a vote.
Okay. Real good. Hearing no other reason for discussion, can we have a motion then on item C?
I will make that motion.
And do we have a second? I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries on item C on the consent agenda. Item number 4, old business. We have none. Item number 5, new business. We also have nothing to discuss tonight. It's a slow news night. Item number 6, department reports. Item 6A, electric bikes and scooters report. Manager Foggin?
I'll start the introduction. That'll be Amy Schreiber. She's the Deputy City Attorney. She's going to be giving a report on this. And it's just a general overview of of how the e-bikes and scooters fit within the legal scheme.
Amy, welcome.
Thank you. All right. Looks like I'm screen sharing. All right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Like Carl said, and as we've heard from the call to the public, we've been seeing some different modes of
Amy, can you pull the mic? Thank you.
We've been seeing some different modes of transportation on the road, particularly these e-bikes and scooters. And I just wanted to give you guys kind of an overview, a very brief overview of what's in Arizona law. And then I did look at some different codes from around the state to see what they're doing in regards to these alternate modes of transportation. So we'll go over a couple of those. Can I go back? There we go. All right, so first I wanted to talk about the electric bikes, which are also known as e-bikes. They're defined in Arizona revised statutes as a bicycle or tricycle that is equipped with fully operable pedals and an electric motor of less than 750 watts. There's 3 different types. There's Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Class 1 is a bicycle that's equipped with an electric motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling and ceases to provide assistance when the bicycle reaches the speed of 20 miles per hour. A Class 2 electric bicycle is a bicycle that's equipped with an electric motor that may be used exclusively to propel the bicycle and is not capable of providing assistance when the bicycle reaches the speed of 20 miles per hour. And finally, the Class 3 is a bicycle that's equipped with an electric motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling and ceases to provide assistance when the bicycle reaches the speed of 28 miles per hour. So that would be the fastest one. Under Arizona revised statutes, the same laws and privileges that apply to bikes apply to electric bicycles. And this is, again, from Arizona revised statutes. Bikes shall drive in the right-hand lane or as close as practicable to the right edge of the road. Bikes are, under Arizona revised statutes, allowed on sidewalks and bike paths. Helmets are not required, and there is no minimum age to ride. Electric stand-up scooters are defined under Arizona revised statute as weighing less than 75 pounds and having enough room for one person and a max speed of 20 miles per hour. Again, the same under the Arizona law, the same laws and privileges that apply to bikes also apply to the electric stand-up scooters. Again, they're allowed on sidewalks and bike paths. Like I said, I did look at some different regulations around the state because obviously these have become popular in other cities as well. Both the city of Phoenix and Mesa do not allow electric bikes, e-bikes on sidewalks at all. Phoenix also established a minimum riding age of 16. Phoenix also doesn't allow electric stand-up scooters on sidewalks, and you must be a minimum age of 18 to ride those in Phoenix. In the city of Tempe, they do allow e-bikes and scooters on the sidewalk when there are no bike lanes available and the speed limit is greater than 25 miles per hour, but they also must yield to pedestrians on the sidewalks. Riders under the age of 18 are also required to wear a helmet. And I will say, I did work with KPD. They actually sent me, it's not in the presentation, but this job aid for unusual traffic units in the city of Kingman. It was something that they got from Tempe, so it had a lot of specific sites from the Tempe code, but I went through it and just put in the different statutes that apply, again, to these electric bicycles, motorized scooters, and things like that. So it is something that we're obviously aware of. Did anybody have any questions?
Amy, I just noticed you just said it, motorized bicycles. We also have seen a number of bicycles that have small gas-powered motor, motors. I'm not sure what the regulations are on that and how does that lumped in with these? Because some of those bikes, we've seen them, some are moving along pretty good.
Yeah, so that is separate from the e-bikes.
Okay,
So that, and those, but they do have the same maximum speed. And I believe that the same laws that apply to the bikes also apply to the motorbikes.
I would think so. I would think so. Okay. Counselors? Any questions for Amy?
I just had a question.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. What about the protocol for somebody that gets stopped? You know, if they get stopped violating these codes, statutes, how is that handled?
I would think it would be handled like
Do they
being
get a
stopped in a vehicle.
Okay,
Yeah, like
they
a
get a traffic
Traffic
ticket?
ticket?
Yeah, they
Okay,
could get
so
a
they
citation.
Okay.
And since we're talking about this, and I have not heard of any serious accidents. Have we had any
I have-
citations or anything?
I have not, and I apologize for interrupting. I did reach out to KPD and asked if they had any issues with the e-bikes or the scooters. I did not hear anything back. Doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't anything, but I did reach out to see if there were any
Well,
big issues.
we're going to talk to the chief here in a little bit anyway, so.
Yeah. We could ask him.
Okay. Well, great. Once again, thanks, Amy. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6B, Police Department Annual Report. Chief Rusty Cooper.
Thank you. Council, Mayor, Council. No, we have not had any noticeable issues with e-bikes and scooters, but we are constantly watching for sure. So I'm pleased to present to you our 2022 annual report. And I want to start by reading the first paragraph in my message at the beginning of the report. And you all should have received your copies of it. There's also a digital copy attached for the agenda as well. But I am pleased to present our report, and I'm honored to lead an organization and work with some amazing people who understand the importance of why we do what we do. And my team definitely understands the why in what we do. Despite the continued staffing and recruitment challenges, the department was dedicated and committed to providing professional police services to the community of Kingman. And it's my hope that this report, the physical report and my report tonight, which will highlight some things, that it would be interesting, it would be concise, and it would accurately reflect that the work that my team does each and every day. So for 2022, we handled 35,516 total calls for service. That is about 0.5% increase from the previous year, so it was kind of status quo. But there were some changes in the calls for service types that I want to talk to. There were some increases that I felt were noticeable, and then I wanted to use this opportunity to provide some context as well. So the first one that is noticeable is if you look at domestic violence incidents, they had increased by 43%, which is significant. So I'm going to share some anecdotal reasons for that I believe based on what my staff and I see, and it's also consistent with other agencies across the state and the region. But the definition of domestic violence has changed over the years as far as the elements in domestic violence. Some years ago, it was husband and wife, and then in exchange, two people living together. And it has continued to evolve over the last few years to involve anybody having lived in the house, currently or previously living in the house, no matter what their relationship was. If they have children or if somebody's pregnant, or if they have an ongoing relationship, they don't even have to be living in the house. It's expanded the opportunities for a call to be enhanced by that qualifier of domestic violence. So that contributes to the increase, as well as we've seen an increase in the dysfunction of family. And I could probably connect that to the socioeconomic issues that are going on and the stressors over the last 3 years. So those are things that when I see those increases, and I'll share another couple, I pay attention to them and I try to apply why has that increased or decreased in our community, because we are unique to others, but there are some commonalities that we share with other communities as well. Sexual assaults, if you were to total that on a percentage, that's a 90% increase. Pretty staggering, it's pretty shocking. When I looked into it, it's important for me to share with you that status on the report would probably better be described as sexual offenses, because that category is all-inclusive of 6 other subcategories, and we've totaled it for the report purposes. Most of those incidents involve, most if not all of them, involve people that are associated between each other with the alleged offender and the victim. 12 of those reports involved inappropriate touching. 4 were statutory offenses involving age. You can fill in some details there. 6 of them were cleared by an arrest. And the reason I'm providing that detail is in no way to minimize those incidents, but it was a significant increase. It's pretty staggering perhaps, but it's important for me to put some context to it so that the community doesn't suspect that there's an unknown subject out there lurking and up to no good in targeting random victims. In the case of all of those incidents, that's not the case. So, also our crashes, if you were to put a percentage on crashes from last year, when I say last year, that's 2021 to this year, which is 2022. That's an increase of 11%. So as I looked into that, it was important for me to explain to you that 450 of those crashes listed on that page number 6, I believe, in the report, are private property crashes. Those are things that we take reports on as a courtesy. They're not investigated necessarily. We try to get to the truth just so we can satisfy an insurance issue, perhaps. And it's nothing that we have enforcement action on private property. Unless it's a DUI or reckless driving, there's some criminal offenses that we can't take action on. So if you take those 450 crashes out of there, that still leaves an increase in our traffic roadway crashes of about 2.5%. And that's something that we also pay attention to because it's our goal. One of our goals is to lower crashes as well. So, and some of that, again, anecdotally, I could attribute to increased traffic on our major roadways. You all have experienced that, but it's very real. I also have a traffic team that have 3 positions. One of them is currently not filled, so there's 2. And those officers do spend time in the high visibility, high traffic, high complaint areas doing traffic enforcement if they're not investigating a crash. So those are the highlights of some of the increases that aren't necessarily a good thing for sure, but there are some increases that I consider good news. One of those is DUIs were up 18%. Our drug offenses were up 13%. And the reason those are good, those are because my officers are being active and proactive in their enforcement. Otherwise, those aren't total incidents of DUIs or drug offenses. It's probably, who knows what it is. But the increases that we've caught, captured, and arrested, and that's why that's a good thing for me. Our traffic contacts are up 13%, and our overall arrests are up 27%. It's not that I take pride in the offenses or the issues that are going on, but what I do take pride in, it's the second year that those 3 categories have increased. After prior years, there were some significant decreases, and it's because of the officers in the last several years have continued with their proactive enforcement efforts, and it's something that I encourage. We have had enhanced DUI patrols as well. Over the years, we had 26 of them specific to holidays. We've increased our person contacts. We call them field interviews. You see somebody on the street, you stop and you talk to them. Oftentimes that can generate issues or violations. They may have a warrant, they may be in possession of contraband or drugs and whatnot. And I would want to clarify this just like I did last year. I do not have a quota, but I do encourage my officers, if they do traffic contacts, to leave, I'll just say, a memento so that they remember. That could be a citation, it could be a warning, right? And our intent when we're doing our traffic contacts is to let everybody see us, but it's also meant to modify people's behavior so that people can think about things. And we also do outreach in regards to DUIs. We warn everybody that we're going to be out there looking for them. And we do have some traffic radar trailers that you guys probably have seen, different locations. More good news. I can't really brag enough about the work being done by my uniformed patrol officers. I really have to acknowledge them any chance I get and kind of celebrate what they're doing. In spite of staffing shortages and challenges, they're still out there working very hard, and I just can't give them enough credit. So I got to just kind of celebrate them. My investigations bureau has a goal of having a successful clearance of the cases that they've been assigned. This is the detective bureau and our child crime section. but they've had a successful clearance rate of their assigned cases of 75%. And in the scheme of things, that's a very good average. We were able to update our sex offender registration and tracking system this last year, so it is current and up to speed. Our Records Bureau has done an amazing job as well. I don't have a whole lot of bad news, by the way, if you haven't figured that out, but our Records Bureau is doing a lot of work. They're also running shorthanded currently, and we're working on replacing these positions or filling them. And they were able to obtain this NIBRS certification. I mentioned NIBRS to you, I think, previously, and it's just it's a different way that we track and capture and report crime data to the state, who in turn reports that data to the Federal Depository of Criminal Justice, and it tracks things, right? All the sex offender information goes there, all the law enforcement officers assaulted goes in there, the felonies, and everything that might show up on a database that our tourism area might download and put into a document. NIBRS is more detailed. It tracks things differently than what has been happening over the last, well, since I've been a police officer with the agency. We were doing a summary report. So it's important just to know that that changes statistics sometime. It will, no doubt. Our neighborhood service department, I shared with you as well a few months ago, but they've rebranded. They're currently running short. We're working on that, but their activity gets a lot of attention, as it should, but they do some good work, and they're being very productive, and I'm very pleased with how that's going. My school resource officers. I currently have 2 school resource officers covering 10 schools, and they are just doing amazing work as well. They are committed, dedicated. They're covering those demands of the education system along with law enforcement. Can get kind of complicated sometimes, and they do it very well. We have a new property and evidence section, crime scene. New meaning I have 2 brand new people that are in that role, and that's something that I'm very proud of as well. They are performing very well. In all of this, we've been able to maintain our community partnerships, participate in those flagship community events that we're all aware of throughout the year. And this was the first full year that we implemented our officer wellness program. And that program was meant to focus specifically on police officers to provide resources and tools and encourage them to participate in the other wellness benefits that the city offers specific to their physical and their emotional well-being. And it's the first year of that, so I have high hopes for the benefit that that's going to provide them. We also held our award ceremony this year after being dark for a little while because of COVID. We had several retirements, those are celebrations, and we had some promotions, and those are also celebrations. And I have to add, before going on to my challenges section, is our volunteers. We currently have 7. We're working on 10 total, but they put in over 2,000 hours of volunteer time over the last year. And we tried to calculate it out and what that would come to as far as man hours and whatnot, and it was close to $70,000 that they basically saved. And they are definitely a force multiplier for us, and they have become part of our team, and it's just a wonderful group of people. So the challenges as we go on into this last year, and we're still working and dealing with those challenges this year, staffing is a challenge. Some of that's because of vacancies, and we're working on that. Some of the staffing gets affected by, we have a couple officers that are injured, and we have some officers that are off due to life events, I'll just say. And we have a few officers that are, one that specifically is on military deployment for an extended length of time. Every division has been affected by that. When I talk about detectives and traffic and school resource, we have a child crime section. We have our Get 'em task force we're part of. There's a few others, but there's voids there because those officers are in patrol, because we're making sure our patrol side of the house, which is the main thing that we have and that we do, that make sure that's being staffed. The recruitment team worked tirelessly through 2022. They are continuing to do that. If you were to look on page 21 of the report, it shows 15 new team members. I'm very proud of that, but it kind of puts a nice example of what we're looking at. We've never had a page of 15 of new employees, and I'm excited that we have that. And it just shows the work that the recruitment team is doing. They're recruiting, it also turns into testing, and then that turns into some background and making sure we get qualified people before we give them a gun and have them go out and do what they're expected to do. So moving forward, I have a new executive command team. They're not brand new to what we're doing, but they're new in their roles. Deputy Chief Joel Freed was over operations. He is now over the professional standards side. And Brian Zach is now captain, and he is over the operations side. So as we move forward, we're going to continue to focus on recruitment. We're going to continue to focus on retention, officer wellness. And this year is our 4-year accreditation mark. The reason that's important is we got accredited almost 4 years ago, and we've been re-accredited each year, but this is the 4th year, so we have to go through an actual site visit, and it's like being accredited for the first time. So assessors are actually going to do site visits, and they're going to come and go through everything that we have. But I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to pass that. So in the end, I would just say this and repeat kind of what I referred to at the beginning, that the professionalism and the dedication that the team shows with all these challenges that we face and have been facing, I truly am focused on the resiliency of my team and making sure they're being taken care of, which I think we're doing a wonderful job. I got a great team that's monitoring that as well. But I am proud of the work that they do each and every day. And it's my hope that you and the community has that same confidence to understand what we're doing and how we're providing our service. So I would add this before ending or having any questions, that this report is available. It should be online soon at kingmanpolice.com under reports and downloads. It's available there, and it should say Annual Report 2022. So with that, thank you.
Well, Chief Cooper, thank you, and of course, all of your staff and all those who serve with you on our police department and keeping our community safe. We truly appreciate your examples and the good men and women that work for you.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
one question I had, and of course, it's always staggering, the cost of hiring a police officer that you have in your report. And of course, it says that we have 8 hired. Loss, have we been able to retain those good women and men?
So it's a mixed bag.
I know.
Yeah, it's a mixed
I know.
bag. But I will say, if you were to put, you say the 2 steps forward and 1 back, at least it's 1 and not 2 and 3 back. So that's kind of where we're at. We're gaining ground and we're back a little bit, but overall we are gaining ground.
Okay.
And it's not a cheap endeavor.
No, I wish
Well,
there
we
was
put a lot
something
of
we
time
could
and
do to
effort.
charge other departments. We train them and then they within their first year, they move on.
That legislation pops up every once in a while.
Yes,
Yeah.
something we need to think
Some
about.
of
and
us would
support.
benefit from it more than others, for sure.
Well, thank you, Chief. Council, any questions for Chief Cooper?
Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
I want to thank you and all your staff, your whole department, for keeping us safe. I feel very safe. So I want to put a shameless plug in for the app, because I completely, I believe in that app. You guys are doing a wonderful job of pushing information out. I get push notifications all the time when things are going on. Something goes on at the high school, something goes on that needs to get out to the public and the masses. And so I appreciate that. And then I also noticed there were 3 new hires from out of state. So I just wonder, are we being successful recruiting from out of state, from those communities that don't appreciate their law enforcement? And that, and we do?
So I would say yes, we are. There was one that didn't quite work out, and I can't necessarily, I could, because the qualifications at another state and ours were a little different. It was a big leap, but we have been successful. So we currently have somebody that's interested that actually started this week, and he's going to report to my office on Monday, and he's from Montana. We have 2 from Tennessee. I have somebody from California. And there's a couple more. I want to say Carolinas, but it's worked out. Just to speak to that, it's not an easy process. We're kind of blazing new territory. As far as what the state's doing as well, we are, the recruitment team has to do special arrangements for them, right? They don't necessarily go to a police academy anymore, but there's things that they have to accomplish and become certified in. So that adds to the expense. So that expense that you see in the report is just based on a normal person, I guess, that goes to an academy, which is expensive. But when we do these things with a lateral, they're not going to an academy, but the other resources that are used are significant as well. But we have been successful. so far
Wow.
so good. Yeah, it's been a good thing.
I appreciate the accommodations that we're making, so,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, we welcome you from other states because we love our law enforcement here.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
Well said.
Okay. Yes, Counselor Savage.
Thank you, Chief Cooper. You do a fabulous job. I was going to kind of touch on the recruiting as well. I'm in business development, and how do you go about recruiting? I mean, it's a specific position. What angles are you going at with that?
So we try to mix it up as to how we share our message. My belief is when potential applicants are looking, first thing they see is Facebook page. They look at your website. So we try to keep that, we make efforts to keeping that fresh and keeping it current. So that's something that we do. We didn't do some years ago, but we do that. I know our Human Resource Department is sending things out to the different trade magazines and sources as well. My team this year is in the process of revamping our recruitment material, which would be posters and handouts. So we are also showing up to some recruitment expos if we think it'll fit our demographic. And I don't know how successful we've been with that, but we do try to do that. So, and we try to make ourselves present with the table. Simple things like our pop-up tent and a flag and a thing flying in the air and stuff like that. So.
Okay, and then one other question. On the drug offenses, it says it's up 137%. Is that opiate-based?
So I would say there's a significant, I don't know, I couldn't say all of them.
Okay.
I know we're having significant death investigations that have been consistent. We had over 100 in 2022, and I couldn't put a number on it, but there was a surprising, not surprising, but increase in opioid use. So I couldn't tell you the exact amount. I know methamphetamine and opioids, fentanyl, those are the top two for sure.
Cool. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Mayor Watkins, if I may.
Yes, Counselor Pat.
I'm going to do multiple questions, but in bite-sized digestible pieces for you, Chief Cooper. So there's typically always an expense to training a new officer, in your case, 42 weeks and $67,000. Is that right?
Correct.
And then it's not just officers that you have to train, but also your evidence techs and also administration personnel.
Yes.
They take on a different type of training cost, maybe not as much as an officer, but still training costs themselves, right? How many years do you think would be worth hiring someone? Like if you knew at the interview process, if you could look into their mind and they would say, oh, I'm only going to be here for 52 weeks, 1 year, versus 2, 3, 5, 10 years, what would be worth it to hire someone if you knew how many years they would stay?
So I've estimated and calculated that anywhere between 4 and 5 years is when we would start getting a return on our investment. I think that's what you're asking.
Yes.
That's my opinion. However, I have to qualify that. When you start getting into year 2, 3, and 4, we're adding other training to them. So it increases as well. So I would say that when we lose somebody, how we do it, we haven't got our full return on the investment that way, but we're not designed necessarily. But as far as the initial training, that's what I base it on. So I really don't think I can rightfully justify including that, but it should be part of the discussion.
Okay, but approximately 4 or 5 years
Correct.
is what you're hoping to get with new hires.
Well, I'm
At
hoping to
least.
I'm hoping to get 20.
Right.
I know what you mean.
But at the very least.
Yeah.
So essentially what you're telling the council is that if some person were to resign or do a lateral transfer to a different agency before their 4 years hits, we've lost money.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt, you would say.
Yes.
Do you currently have a turnover rate or how, a ratio of, like you said, 2 forward, 2 back, 1, but do you have a turnover rate, a percentage of people who remain or stay on the force?
No. I wouldn't want to guesstimate what that is. I currently have 7 vacancies that have not been filled. In addition to the injuries or family leave issues or someone's on military deployment, and I think those are the other little tangibles. So we're trying to fill 7.
Officer positions, right?
Officer positions, not staff. I think there's 2 civilian staff that we're currently vacant, but we're in the process, so.
Okay. And for instance, were you also trying to fill these 7 positions at the beginning of the report year at the beginning of 2022?
We've been trying to fill 7 positions for easily 3 years, where we've gained, and then we've lost, and we've gained retirements and different things.
Do you know the reasons why your officers are leaving? Is it better incentives at other agencies or something of that
It's
nature?
partially, sometimes it's partially that. Other times this just isn't for them. Others, there's a few right now, 2 that are looking at considering other life options, and they're not necessarily law enforcement.
When it comes to pay comparison with our sister agencies, Department of Public Safety, which we probably won't be able to compete with because they're a state agency, but also including MCSO, Bullhead City Police Department, and Lake Havasu City Police Department, where do we rate? In the middle, below, on top?
So that's difficult for me, and I would not want to provide you with a solid answer because there's other factors that come into play in regards to the socioeconomic setup of the city and the cost of living and the benefits that are provided. But I will say this, that the city is working on a compensation comparison in regards to that, and that's expected to be happening anytime. So we'll have that information going forward.
Okay. On the last note, as a prosecutor, I deal mostly on the operation sides with your officers, and I must say I'm excited. I'm ecstatic about the leadership on the operations side and dealing with your officers. It's always a pleasure and a joy to work with them. So thank you, Chief Cooper, for everything you do.
You're welcome. This is my 3rd year as chief. This is my 3rd annual report, and it's not wasted on me, the quality of people that were handed to me, basically. So it's been truly wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Chief. Counselor Ward, you're the only one that hasn't taken any time. Do you have anything?
I would like to thank Rusty for everything they do. I've met several of your officers, and
Were you looking like this?
they're very professional. Just keep up the good work.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Chief Cooper. We appreciate that. Item number 7, announcements by mayor, council members, and city manager. Starting off with Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. The only announcement I have is just to remind the council that we have a council workshop Tuesday at 5 o'clock. It's the only thing I got. I wish I had something more, but that's all I got.
Thank you. Counselor Savage. Vice Mayor.
I do have a few things to say. I attended the ribbon cutting at the Grand Canyon Brewery on St. Patrick's Day, and I just welcomed them to town. So I think they're going to be a welcomed addition to our downtown, and they're going to bring in a lot of tourist traffic. So I also ate there, so it was really good. I also wanted to say that on the 10th of March, I represented the city at the request of the mayor at the Catherine Heinrich grand opening. They did a remodel over there in their facility, and I was taken on a tour, and that's a great place for our adults. And it's an adult center. It's not a senior center anymore. So they're an adult center. Anybody 18 years or older can go there. So they have so many activities and classes, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I was very proud to represent the city. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Counselor Ward.
The only thing I got is at the meeting the other night when Sam Elders was speaking, he had asked that if anybody's looking to adopt a dog or foster a dog, now's the time because the shelter is overcrowded. And that's all I got.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Counselor Pat.
No announcements tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Once again, we appreciate these announcements. And Vice Mayor, as always, I appreciate you filling in for me when I'm not available. So thank you for representing the city. I have no other announcements. Item number 8, council request for future reports and updates.
Mayor, I have a request.
Yes, Counselor Pat.
I know Chief Cooper mentioned that there will be a compensation comparison for the Kingman Police Department. I just would like, is it already on the agenda or schedule, Ron?
It's not for the police department. It's for the entire city.
It's for the entire city?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was hoping to see the comparison, and will it include things with comparison to DPS, MCSO, Bullhead, and Lake Havasu by chance?
I have no idea.
Huh?
I doubt it. We usually do comparisons with like cities. So, I mean, we will cover that with the council.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping to get a comparison with those other agencies, mostly for the officers, detectives, and sergeants, more so the boots on the ground type people. I would like a report generated on that pay comparison, because when I talk to officers in all kinds of agencies around the state, pay is a big issue, and they are leaving for our sister cities within driving distance. I would also like to know whether our pay is tiered, steps, or scaled for Kingman police officers. And I would also like the same with the Kingman Fire Department price comparison with Lake Havasu City Fire Department, even though I understand they're a fire district. Excuse me, Bullhead City Fire Department, even though they're a fire district, and Lake Havasu City Fire Department. And also the cost of training for the Kingman Fire Department. And then I would also like to know in that report if there are pay increases over time, or if after a year, 2 years, 5 years, if an officer or a firefighter would get a slight bump in their pay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on council? Request? Okay, hearing none, I move that we adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you for everybody being here tonight.